Thanks for joining Scene Squad. I'm your host, political and cultural critic Sharon with two R's, and I'm joined today with my co-host, historian and financial guru Rosalie, and you're listening to Seen and Heard podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, like, share, comment. Check out our VIP membership page and become a member so you can get extra perks. And we are getting ready to get started here. So we have a lot to cover. Everything changes in a matter of seconds now, lately in this landscape. So welcome to America, a corporate sponsored democracy. This has to do with what happened yesterday with the market crash for about a week. It was about a week where criminal politicians get to crash the economy, get bailed out, laugh openly in our faces on the way to their fourth yacht, while we fight over egg prices, school loan debt, ducking and dodging mass shooters, worried about the planes falling out of the skies, rent, mortgages, lack of living wages. But we get to laugh too. So I'm gonna play this video. We laugh. We don't laugh enough. We get a little bit of reprieve here and there. So I'm gonna play this because this is actually kind of funny. So knowing that we're laughing to keep from crying, this is really funny. So I hope this cheers y'all up. And Rosalie will talk on the other side.
Yeah, I'm voting for Trump. Trump has put his tariffs all over the place. I've been trying to understand him. I don't. And everything's in the because of it. Donald Trump just cost me $20 million or whatever he did. Maybe don't be on the golf course.
Everyone in this room, everyone loves you. And I just want to say you're a true hero for this country.
I don't know how many of you guys are invested in crypto or stocks. What the is going on with our country? Guys, why am I poor?
Because Donald Trump is the nominee against Joe Biden. I won't just vote for him. I will walk over broken glass to vote for him. His giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally.
This is a vivid demonstration of very well-known prominent Trump fans, whether they're in your feeds, as they say, or not, going through their own personal experience of the harm of these Trump economic policies as their viewers watch.
It's a cult. It's a cult.
Why is Ben Shapiro always around? Why everything I know about that man is against my will. That everything I know about that man is against my will. The other two didn't even know they existed until this week, frankly. The Schadenfreude is strong, right? But genuinely, the thing that frustrates me the most is I still know that people like them will still likely be relatively insulated, while folks who are will experience the layoffs and job loss and the pain that comes with what they have shown is a very unstable market at the whims of a single man who, with a Twitter, or with a social media account, can literally cost or gain billions of dollars for folks. And it's one of those, I love to see folks watch what happens in real time, but I still Ben Shapiro's he's not gonna learn from this. He's not gonna learn from this.
The other guy, Portnoy, I knew of him, and Ben Shapiro, I never really listened to him because I don't like the sound of his voice, but that Portnoy, I knew of him. I know, he's like some sports betting person or something. So with his video, and the fact that he was whining about that, though, as funny as that was, he still supports Trump. I mean, they still support Trump. Right. It's a cult. I mean, it's a cult. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It's a cult.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much. People have been told to just trust the process, right? And they've trust the process them way into themselves into a place where I don't even think they know what the process is. They've just decided that it's that sunken cost fallacy, like really, really rearing its ugly head, where they're like, I'm too far in. There's no going back now. And it's like you actually don't have to burn the boats while you're standing on them. You know, like you actually don't have to do that at any time. You can choose to stop doing that, and let people call you a grifter. Let people call you what they're going to call you, because the alternative is that you stay stuck where you are, and it's not going to age well for any of them. Like, none of them are going to come out of this doing amazing, because they're not in the 1%. They want to be so bad. They're just speaking. They're just mouthpieces for the 1%.
And this is what they're doing to us now, basically openly in our faces, because nobody's going to be held accountable for this, but this is what they're doing to in our faces.
And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad.
Just in case y'all missed that, because it was like 6 seconds long. But yeah, they're laughing in our faces because nobody's going to be held accountable.
The stock market is really, it's not meant for us, and so it's never taken us into consideration, other than how much labor we can put into it, or how much debt we can put into it, with the mortgages we take out, the student loans that we take out, and how they can buy and sell and trade off of that poverty, essentially.
I mean, okay, Martha Stewart got put in prison for less than what we just witnessed. she got put in, let me see. And then on top of that, I'm going to flip this around so y'all can see it. This is kind of like infuriating too, but there's nothing we could do. That's the thing that I can't stand about all of this, is there's nothing we could do. That's from the official White House Twitter account. I'm not on Twitter, but I got a screenshot from someone else. That's on their official website. Like, imagine. Okay, we always have to say this. We're going to play this game. We're going to play it because there's nothing, I mean, nothing makes sense anymore. President Obama got raked over the coals for a tan suit.
Right.
Hillary Clinton got raked over the coals over risotto recipes in her email. Kamala got raked over the coals over her laugh. But this...
Right. I mean, there is nothing like the audacity of a mediocre WHITE man. You know what I mean?
White man. Just say it. Nope. We're not doing like the corporate media. You know how the
I forget. I'm not on TikTok right now.
Yeah, so that's right. You can say it. Yeah. Yeah. We say what you mean. Say what you mean.
Yeah, it's seen and heard over here. I'm like, I'm going to get, you're not going to post my video. I'm like, this isn't. Yeah. So there's nothing like the audacity that comes with that, especially somebody who's always never been told no her entire life. Like, why would he start now? You know? And this is, I mean, they're not playing in our faces in the sense that they don't think, this is where the hubris comes in, right? Because this actually doesn't work out well long term. And I don't think the people around him are stupid enough to think it will, in that sense. I think that they're banking on people not unifying enough to fill the power vacuum with anything other than what they've always filled it with. I think that's what they're hoping will happen, is that people will be too afraid of the instability to want to create a new status quo altogether. And that's, I mean, it's a terrifying prospect.
Well, friendly reminders here every chance we get. This is what was happening while everybody is just kind of acting like they're too scared to do anything about this, which again will say, white people, this is the majority of white people voted for this guy, for this mess. black people supposedly they keep saying are like 13-14% of the population. I've been hearing that since I was a kid. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm 50 something years old now, and we're still supposedly 13-14% of the population. I don't, that's part of their little, propaganda and all that. Just probably because they don't want it to make it seem known that there are actually more black people than there are. But yeah, so for 50 something years, all I've heard is I'm 14% of the population. But this is white people's problem. White people have to fix this. The only way any of this stops is if white people stop it. And money is what they care about, because this is a prime example. They added $304 billion to their combined net worth, the largest one-day gain. This is a heist. This is ill-gotten gains in the history of Bloomberg Billionaires Index after Trump pledged to pause tariffs for some countries. I mean, we thought that their wealth ballooned during COVID. This is crazy. And then the fact that is like, okay, yeah, it's market manipulation. So basically, what are y'all going to do about it?
Right. And I think that what's actually being revealed here is the fact that there is nothing. The system has built it so that there is nothing you can do about it. The system is designed to sustain itself, right? It's not meant to protect us or what we want. The system is working exactly as it was designed to work. And like you said, until we acknowledge that, especially as white people, we stay stuck. We just stay stuck. James Baldwin, I've been reading a book of his with a couple of letters that he wrote, one to his nephew at the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. And at the end of his letter, he goes, "You know, and I know that the country is celebrating 100 years of freedom, 100 years too soon. We cannot be free until they are free," talking about white people. And he said that back in 1980. When he was expressing his frustration with, even past the Civil Rights Act being passed, they were still encountering so many issues that they were coming up against, being fought by the powers and systems and institutions and the white people that were in the country. And the white allies supposedly said, we just need to be patient. These things take time. And it's the same kind of like, how much time do you want for your progress? Kind of like he understood white people better than they understood themselves. And it frequently is the oppressed that understand their oppressors better than the oppressors understand themselves. And you're right. You're 100% right. And people have been saying this, as you can see, for 40 years and then some, obviously. I'm just quoting something from 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And it's ongoing. It's just like, so they give you a semblance of performative progress, and this is these people have been playing the long game. There's still things that people could do. They're just still so comfortable in their comfort. They're not willing to sacrifice. And I'm gonna play this clip of about this guy's talking about Leonard Leo. And I did a podcast last year about when ProPublica dropped that article about Inside Project 2025 and the secret training videos. I think I was even sick, but it's last year, episode 8. I did a podcast, so y'all can scroll through the page. But I'm just going to play this little clip here about explaining who Leonard Leo is and the gang, or the how they're trying to restructure this country.
3 of our 9 Supreme Court justices, chosen by one man. Not a president, not a senator, a man that you've never voted for. His name is Leonard Leo. If you don't know that name, it is by design. Leonard Leo never ran for office. He doesn't argue cases. He builds the world that those people have to live in. Quietly, strategically, and permanently. 3 decades ago, he took over a sleepy little group of law students called the Federalist Society. He turned it into a pipeline, a place to groom new judges. Not just any judges, judges with an agenda. Judges who believe that the government's job is not to protect your rights, but to uphold tradition. Leo did not storm the court, he built it, brick by brick. He handpicked judges, advised presidents, wrote the playbook for overturning Roe v. Wade before Trump even ran for president. In 2021, a little-known billionaire gave Leo control of $1.6 billion, the largest single political donation in American history. That money is now fueling a full-scale war on civil rights, voting rights, environmental protection, and anything that threatens corporate power. He's reshaping more than just the courts. He's reshaping your future. Whether you have the right to vote, whether your state can ban birth control, whether they can gut every single law that protects our planet, whether billionaires will ever face any consequences for anything that they do. Leo believes that the Constitution should be frozen in time, that the government should never evolve, and that America should be ruled by a version of freedom written by slave owners in 1787. Every headline that you've been screaming at, the gutting of federal agencies, the elimination of DEI, letting states erase trans rights, restrict voting, and rig maps. That's not dysfunction. That's Leonard Leo's blueprint working just as he planned. And now he's expanding, funding campaigns to take over school boards, state legislatures, attorney general's offices. Because this is not about judges anymore, it is about control. The whole way down. He's been called the most powerful political figure in America. More than Charles Koch, more than Elon Musk, more than Donald J. Trump himself. And most people have never heard his name. That is the point. That is what design looks like. While we were distracted, divided, and exhausted, he was building. And if we don't start naming him, this billionaire who thinks he knows better than everybody else and has the right to rebuild our Supreme Court will continue building that court, will continue building at lower levels, will continue to reshape our country's trajectory exactly in his own image.
I'm not bowing down to the likes of him or anybody associated with him. I'm just saying that I'm on the record saying that. I don't care.
The thing is you don't even have to, because most of the time you don't know that you are. That's the thing. That's like, you don't even know he's there to not bow down. You don't even know. Most people don't know who, when they talk about deep state.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah.
It's them trying to like hide the fact that they actually do know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
They do know who that is.
And that's why I said anyone associated with him. I added that, but I also like to add before you give your comments, all you people out there that stood in line for Stanley Cups, y'all need that same energy to fight these people, which you can, because all they care about is money. So if you don't buy Stanley Cups and stuff, frugal things like that, yes, they can hold out a little bit longer, but that doesn't mean that you have to continue to give them any more of your money. Does that make any sense? Like, for boycotts, money is the only thing that they care about. The money is the only thing that's going to stop them.
Right. And I think that's why I was talking about the hubris piece of it earlier, is that this thought process that this is going to financially go well is such a farce. Like, if you study these kinds of regimes in history, they destroy the economy of the country that they inhabit. It is a cancer that literally destroys the entire thing from within. It may focus its branches outward to start with, but it's rotting from the inside. And there is no at this point coming back from some of the effects that are going to happen, because whether he wanted to pick and pack a Supreme Court all he wants, he doesn't know what it's like to be us. He doesn't know how we're going to react, because he'll never understand. And I will never even understand some of the dynamic of us, right? Because the 99% is a very diverse base of individuals. And I happen to be in the group of folks who still represents a relatively large danger to that 99%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just by virtue of how I was brought up to understand things. But for people like him, he will never, ever be able to long term anticipate how we are going to react because they've never tried to understand or relate to us. They have always underestimated us. And the thing is I think, and I've told people this before, but the minute that they allowed us to have a device in our hands that they could track our spending with, they could track every habit that we had with, they wanted all the data, right? They wanted
Mm-hmm.
data. But in exchange for that, they had to hand us a port. They wanted to be able to watch us, and they handed us a portal to be able to watch them as well. And that was the risk that they chose to take. And that choice to give us the power of all of the information in the world at our fingertips so that they could have all of our information at theirs is going to be their undoing. I think it's going to be their undoing because generations before.
My fingers crossed. My fingers are
crossed.
crossed.
Never had the ability to connect in the way with the speed and across the world the way that we currently can do that. And the only way that you can get at this point, it's too late to unring that bell too. So
Mm-hmm.
while there's a lot of financial implications and a lot of things that will not be undone that are going to be very, very harmful, we have to remember we have to play to our strengths. We know what our weaknesses are, right? But we do have to acknowledge like you had said, there are absolutely things that can still be done and will definitely be pursued. And as long as we're willing to concentrate and work together, we still outnumber them. They only have the power that we decide they have. Power is not a tangible thing, it's a mindset. And we decide. Like I know that you said that before. It's one of those like it's always been in our hands. We just have to decide.
Right.
And
I actually I wanted to say that they are hot. I make it on purpose that they are very disappointed in my data because I purposefully do not go to the big box sites. Like I'll go to like all these foreign sites to get my clothes or get any kind of novelties, knickknacks I like or whatever. Like I put in a cart last night for my daughter and I. There's a site in Japan. So I go directly to the site. I don't go through Amazon or anything. I go directly to the site and it's from Japan. So eventually when I get those clogs for her and the mugs that we got with the cherry blossoms on it, everybody, they look like the Stanley Cups, but they're cooler than the Stanley Cups. They're from Japan. They got cherry blossoms all over. I do stuff like that. I do stuff like that, and then like the YouGov.org site where you do surveys and stuff. I do those surveys, and then it gets to like they want you to link your Netflix and your Amazon and stuff like that, so they could follow that data or whatever. Well, I can't link up to that. I don't link up to that because I don't use Netflix and I don't use Amazon. And then when I tried to link my YouTube to it, it wouldn't link because I don't listen to any American music. I don't watch any American shows or anything made in America, and it would not hook my YouTube up to the YouGov.org. They would not. And then they ask you about TV shows and stuff like that. So I got a little frowny face on all the stars and all the shows because I don't watch any of them.
Right.
So I kind of do little things like that kind of disrupt them getting my data. They're just probably, I imagine, I wish I knew what they were saying on the other side of like knowing my data is like, who is this person? Why does she have any American stuff on here?
Right.
Why doesn't she watch our TV shows? Why doesn't she listen to our music? Why does she go to our stores?
Right.
Yeah, I do that on purpose.
Absolutely. When you're taking notes, like, I'm going to add that to my recipe list.
I do that on purpose. Yes, I want to disrupt. That's like my only little way of doing that.
I think that there's so many different There's so many different ways, and I think that's another great point that you make, is that it's, and I do want to get into this conversation that we were going to have. I think we were moving on next to the library piece.
Yes.
And I'll go into that, and then we'll discuss kind of another avenue for kind of doing some pushing back. And
right.
So
well, when we're talking about that, and then the oversight for Columbia University.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to do that after. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you.
Yep. They hate my data.
I was like, you want my data? You can take my
Yeah,
dick.
that's right. I give it to you, but it's not what you want.
So the American Library Association has put out a statement on April 10th discussing that in response to an executive order issued on March 14th to reduce the Federal Institute of Museum and Library Services, the IMLS, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has been cutting existing grants, including funding to states in California, Connecticut, Washington. The cuts are very disruptive, especially the services provided in rural communities. Experts are working for IMLS have received notices that their positions are being eliminated, eroding effective support for America's essential public libraries. So there's a kind of contact information if you do want to get in touch. This is another avenue that they are kind of targeting for folks, because you got to think about, I mean, even myself included, I didn't have, because of where I was living was very rural, and I didn't have good cell phone internet signal. I was relying on my public library in order to do my job, to be able to help folks get mortgages so they could buy homes for the first time. And public library was also there for people who are in domestic violence situations, who cannot do searches on their home computers for ways to escape their spouses, ways to get out of these situations, because they can check the history there, and it's easier to be able to go into a public place and do that safely. They have options for printing off services for the same reason. People who are trying to get their documents in order, people who maybe want to file for a divorce and are afraid. My child is special needs, and we have at our local library, one of the things that is really important is they have a sensory story time that's like specific for kids who have high support needs and need sensory stimulation that's a little bit different than your average kid. And so all of these, and that's just me, that's just one person talking about the things that have impacted me directly when it comes to the library system. And they're cutting funding to libraries, to museums, to different institutions that help you not only gain knowledge that allows you to work within the system that exists, but also to imagine a system and a different type of system, imagination, history, fiction, creativity, art, all of the things of free programs. Libraries offer yoga classes and pottery making and different types of things for disabled folks with, Braille options. And your librarian knows how to find all the things that you never even thought to look for. Just such a wealth of information and knowledge.
My mom was a librarian.
And I'm a library kid, right?
She would be so heartbroken seeing how all this is playing out. Like,
so one of the things that I would think is very important for us to hold on just a second.
Oh, she's fine. Hello. Let's talk about my mom, and then I'll tell a little quick story time. Senior year high school, so they messed up my schedule, and my mom was the librarian, so they put me in the class with my mom, and she didn't let me get a pass for anything. So one day I was supposed to be reading the shelves and the books and stuff like that, getting them in order. And I was sitting there, and I propped my chair up, and I was leaning back, and I was dozing off. I dozed off. And she comes down that aisle with the ruler. And she tapped me on the head. She's like, "What are you doing back here?" I was like, "Oh no." So Mama didn't let me get away with being her daughter, just being her daughter because she was a librarian. She didn't let me get away with anything. So back to you, Rosalie.
No worries. I appreciate you sharing that one. One needed a snack refreshment, so let her set up.
Oh, also, I remember back in the day, well, and I graduated in 86, so this is like maybe 84, 85. She was trying to put some books in the library, order some books to put in the library, talking about how Cleopatra and the Egyptians were black. And the school I grew up in was like majority white and in a white area, like an affluent white area, and they would not let her put those books in there. So, like, now
Right.
I'm seeing all these fights and book bannings and stuff like that. I didn't really pay attention to it. Of course, I was a teenager, but I do remember her being really upset about that. Like, they won't let me put these books in the library because they're saying that they're black. And that was back then, 80, 85, 86.
Right. And it's a huge reason why the system of the destruction of our history, I think it's the first time that white people are ever experiencing it in the United States, right? Now they're coming for Black history first, but I think it's the first time that it's been so in modern history, right? I mean, they've been doing it here. However, the full-fledged just lean into the aesthetic, because I think it's always been a no, we're not that's not racism. We're not doing a racism. Now they're just like, we're just gonna delete it. We don't care. We're just gonna delete it. You don't care. We don't care. It's very much the manifestation of not solving this problem for as long as we let it go, right? But I've been making a huge concentrated effort to make sure that we're, that's going to be something that I'm going to put. It's something I'm very, very passionate about, and it's something that I'm going to be putting energy towards. There's also a museum called the Pope Museum.
Pope
in Raleigh.
What area? You're Raleigh, South Carolina? Okay.
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
So there's a Pope House Museum in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's the only house museum in the state for a Black person, for like a Black family. So they have all these, you can go into the old house and it's for this old white family or these slave owners. You see the plantation houses and all that other stuff. Well, the Pope House Museum is for a Black family, and it's the only one in the state, and it's in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's very small. It's actually, apparently, I've been checking the information, is supposed to be going under construction for renovations from mid-April until June. And my major concern is, because it is a state-run museum based on state funding, that they will just not reopen it. That by the time we get to the time that it would reopen, it'll already be closed and people won't even think to try to save it. And so these are the types of things in my area that I'm just trying to put my little hands on, because I can't, again, we can't save the world, right? But I can draw attention to the fact that this museum exists, because I wouldn't have known if I hadn't moved here. It's the only one in the state. It's right there in downtown Raleigh. It's right there. It's relatively unassuming, frankly. And so my plan is, before it starts to shut down, I may even go this weekend and start just taking photos of everything.
Take footage. Yeah, get footage and look, post it. We'll post it on the website or whatever. Post it on your Substack.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I need to get my Substack going. That's actually a really great idea.
On your Substack.
So they've said, you cannot save everything. We will not be able to save everything. They're going to destroy a lot of things. So what small things you can reach out and touch them. And with everybody's cumulative power combined, we will save a lot more than if we sit at home and say, that's illegal. Yes, it is. So get your ass out there and start taking footage, because it is illegal. And maybe you can't physically stop them, but you can save it. You can save the memory of it. You can still document and record it. All the things that I'm documenting and recording, I'm planning on printing out a lot of the photos that I've also have stored on my phone that I wish I wouldn't have to look at again, from the things that are happening in Palestine and the Middle East and Congo and Sudan, and the things that I've seen. But they're trying to erase them actively. And so what we need to do is everybody doing their little part to preserve what they can and fight back in the ways they can. So I love the examples you gave, and I hope mine ideas of the little things you might not think of.
I wanted to go, and I thought, I never thought that I would be in a situation where I may not get to see it. Montgomery, Alabama, of course, is my hometown. And since they've had the lynching museum there, I was always under like the impression maybe I'll get to go, because I haven't had the money or anything to go back there and go there. And I've always wanted to go to the lynching museum because it's the only one in the United States. Um, and so now, seeing what this Trump regime is doing and trying to wipe out Black history and cut funding for museums and things like that, I really would like to go to that museum. So if anybody has any ideas, like if y'all would like to like send funds for me and Rosalie to do a road trip. We could do a road trip and go to Montgomery, Alabama, and I'll show you like my high school and everything, and I'll document it if you guys would like to contribute to that, like through donations. So that way we can make a road trip and go to the museum and document it and everything before it gets wiped out. Because I really do want to go back there. Like I said, that's my hometown. I hadn't been there in years, but I did want to go there to the museum. Yeah. Now, when I left Montgomery, it was like 86. They had the Shakespeare Museum. I think it was the only Shakespeare museum in the United States. I actually got to work there when they like first opened. It's like a few years after they first opened. So I did get to go to the Shakespeare Museum and a Shakespeare theater type. It was like a little recreation. I don't know what it looks like now, if it's still that standing, but they did have like a Shakespeare museum there, and I got to go to that. But I really want to go to the lynching museum. Like that's just, and I'm going to be heartbroken if because we see what they're doing. They're wiping everything out and trying to erase it. So I really would like to go back to Montgomery to go to if we could make it a road trip.
I've actually only been to Alabama one time, and it was back in college, and it was to my friend's uncle's house. So I never really got to go and explore too much. And there's so much history, so much of Black history's roots in that area that I'd be honored to share that experience with you. I would love to do that. So
if there are any benefactors out there that would like to see that, and you were willing to donate to our cause, and we'll document it all for you guys on the YouTube channel.
That would be really important.
That'll be kind of like a community type networking thing too, because maybe some other people that don't that would like to see it, we'll actually document it for you guys so y'all can see it. So you give us a chance to go see it.
Absolutely. And then maybe
it's just an idea.
We can get some ideas from other folks about some of the other things that are around there that maybe that have gone up maybe since you left, that that might be worth exploring as well. Small businesses, things like that might be featured and have a conversation. And I think that would be amazing. Truly. Yeah. Thank you for the idea. We might as well. We still have to plan we still have to make plans, right?
Yeah.
Lean into the living part of existing here.
But you guys let us know what you think too, like in the comments or something, voicemail.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the next topic was the Columbia, right?
Yeah. So let me flip this around. I'm surprised that I think it was a gift article. Let me see. Let me flip it around, because now these links have these weird ads that pop up. Just it's kind of annoying. So I'm actually training myself. It's like the Olympics, I'm training myself on how to avoid the little ads that pop up like here. But the Trump administration wants to install federal oversight of Columbia University. Government is aiming to legally bind the school to changes as they negotiate over federal funding. Another example of just blatant bribery. That's all that is. It's open bribery.
It's extortion, and it's blackmail.
And extortion,
it's blackmail, right? And essentially, it's we're gonna take all the money that allows your school to be called the prestigious school that it is, because the bigger the fund, the more prestigious they call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they threatened to, they blackmailed them essentially. And instead of taking the stand and thinking that maybe the other universities might have their back, Columbia capitulated and bent to their will. And the more that this happens, this is how regimes like this take a foothold, when they can
Mm-hmm.
get in, when they can degrade confidence in the judiciary, when they can degrade confidence in the rule of law through the judiciary, if they can
And the
degrade
media, they've already
the
succeeded there.
media, and they can degrade confidence in higher education. They really don't need to pass that point. They're going to be able to take control a hell of a lot more easily, because the youth has to be funneled, is being funneled through these institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Indoctrination that they claim was being done to all of these students, and this leftist indoctrination, which if you're in college, it's no, they're just teaching folks critical thinking skills. They're teaching you how to cite your sources and evaluate sources and determine bias so that you don't get tricked and hoodwinked into
And
believing
that's what
things
they're
like
scared
this.
about.
And they're terrified of that. And they realize that they educated us too damn much,
Mm-hmm.
because they wanted to make money off of student loans, and they realized, oh man, they're too educated. And so now they're saying, well, we'll take the university instead.
And that's the same thing that happened with the Bowser lady with the Black Lives Matter art that was in the road after during Black Lives Matter, and they had that monument, the painting in the road. Same thing happened to her. They threatened her funding for her city, and that's why they had to erase it, erase the Black Lives Matter monument. And the same thing with these businesses after the market crashed the other day, that he made a statement. I'll post the article. I thought I had it pulled up, but basically, corporations. He's saying that he will think about lifting tariffs off of these corporations if they negotiate with him. That's extortion. That's bribery. Just like you said, open bribery, and nobody is stopping him. The Supreme Court,
man,
it has allowed him to behave this way, and nobody is going to stop him. Nobody.
I mean, the Supreme Court essentially ruled while Biden was still president in reference to a case that was to do with Trump, but Biden was still president at the time, that essentially the president, as long as they're acting within their presidential powers, duties, can do virtually anything without being indicted. Now, a lot of folks will sit there and say, well, he's not technically acting within his presidential duties when he does X, Y, or Z. But the fact that the Supreme Court would make a ruling like that in the first place tells you that it doesn't matter anymore. A Supreme Court that's willing to say that or do that, it shows you that the system is working exactly as intended. The checks and balances were only meant to benefit the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, everything about our system is an honor system at the end of the day. And if you don't have any honor in that system, and there's no confidence in that system, or people are not willing to uphold that system, it collapses, and it creates that power vacuum like we've been talking about. So
now, speaking of 1%, I'll have one more video to play here with Eric Prince. Now, Eric Prince is Betsy DeVos's brother, and he is the founder of BlackRock. So I really want to get your thoughts on the other side of this video.
Okay.
This is Eric Prince. He founded Blackwater. Blackwater is one of the most prominent private military companies in the world, bankrolled by the US government, but answerable to no one. He was a former US Navy SEAL, and Blackwater are the private military company that the US government used in Iraq and Afghanistan. These wars secured this man over $2 billion in Pentagon funding. Blackwater employees were convicted by the federal government for massacring Iraqis. In 2020, Donald Trump pardoned these men. A 2019 UN report found that Prince violated an international arms embargo by supplying weapons to Libyan rebels. Allegedly. After selling Blackwater, Prince founded FSG, which is listed as a Hong Kong registered company. FSG stands for Frontier Services Group, and it has been involved in projects across Asia and Africa, including plans to build a training facility. This is just a more American bro attempts to destabilize global governments. This is a billionaire with a private army. He works with the CIA and Trump and the Russians. Those connections have been reported in the US mainstream media, the New York Times, The Intercept, and congressional hearings. But I still have to say allegedly. He wants private war. He thinks that private contractors do it better. It's more efficient at killing people. What? He's consistently advocated for mercenary armies to just replace any kind of national military. Darling, what you describe is the Crusades. He gave the weapons to the Libyan overthrew Gaddafi, and God knows what else he sent with them. He now sits perched with his little Asian companies, mulling over how the US can bring down the East. This is not a government role. It's just about flogging weapons and making himself richer. Earlier this year, 2025, Prince and a group of military contractors proposed a $25 billion plan to the Trump administration aimed at deporting 12 million people within the next 2 years. The proposal literally includes setting up concentration camps, but they've called them processing camps. He also wants to deploy a fleet of 100 aircraft and assemble a small army of private citizens to go around and make arrests. This plan has obviously raised some significant legal and ethical concerns, Eric, particularly regarding his hell-bent desire to privatize law enforcement in the United States. I'm not going to get into the potential human rights implications that this obviously stupid plan infringes on. I'm just going to leave the link to the Politico documents in the description of the video. In March 2025, the president of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, announced a strategic alliance with Mr. Prince to bolster the country's efforts against crime. This partnership enhances Ecuador's capabilities to combat narco-terrorism, apparently. That's the party line. What it actually does, though, is allows Mr. Prince to incubate this technology in a lesser developed country before it's rolled out to the United States. I don't care what you say it's for, any American warlord getting involved in the privatization of the global south is never because we want to counter terrorism. Why is Ecuador needing to counter so much narco-terrorism? Ecuador is in a highly strategic location. It sits between two of the world's top cocaine producers. But guys like this are not looking to cut off the supply. They're looking to control the supply chains. This dude is hardcore libertarian and talks passionately and openly about the ideas that he has that private companies would do a better job of simply remove this government altogether. He literally talked at the Harvard Republican Club about exactly that in 2015, giving impassioned and naive speeches about privatization. He only wants privatization because it lines his grubby pockets. This man is a key node in the military-industrial complex. He is actively pitching for the expansion of mass deportation under the Trump administration, going around the world trying to strike new military-adjacent deals, promoting the total privatization of important state functions that should be neutral, like policing and border control, and he is deeply connected to the intelligence, military, propaganda, and right-wing networks. He's like infamous in his own circles, but most people outside of his circles don't even realize who he is. UN reports, congressional hearings, independent journalists, You don't have to search that deep to find receipts to incriminate this man. He is the embodiment of the current colonial rebrand we are watching. The colonies didn't work out. The corporations aren't working out. So now they're trying to move to private empire. He's turning the US military into a private militia. His plans and his current activities are testing public tolerance for techno-authoritarianism. First he did it in Ecuador. I did not speak out.
Betsy DeVos' brother.
Right.
And so he's actually like, that's why I played Leonard, the video about Leonard Leo. They're like in the same little, thing. Now, honestly, I had no idea what libertarianism was about until like the end of Trump's last reign. Then I was like, I didn't go out of my way to really learn about it, but I started seeing more people saying or identifying as libertarian. So I really still didn't know what that meant. But that's who these people are. Prince, the Leonard Leos, and I can't even say Elon Musk because he's not an American citizen. He's African. He needs to go back to Africa. But yeah, those the tech bros, they're like libertarians. So I started learning more about it. We're under attack.
Libertarian is just something that white people who think that they're revolutionary call themselves, but they're just Republicans who think weed should be legal. That's like I have it's the I'm socially liberal but fiscally conservative when you're not socially liberal at all. And
Bill Maher, he's libertarian. He's libertarian.
I grew up in a household. Of people who pretended that that's what they were. So,
but yeah. So what do you think about all that? Because that's like that's problematic.
It's basically people who don't understand how like a cooperative society. They don't want to live in a cooperative society. They don't know how to and refuse to function in one. And so they've just decided that that's what's normal. But they want the benefits of a cooperative society, right? Without having to do all the things. And so you've heard of that example of when like the libertarians like took over a whole town and decided to do it libertarian style, and it just completely
I heard about that. But I'm thinking, and you actually kind of answered my question, because I was like, right before you said it, I'm thinking, why don't they just go in their luxury underground bunkers away from everybody, since they hate everybody so much, or they hate functioning democracy? Why don't they go bury themselves in underground with their $1 billion bunkers, or fast track those rockets to get to Mars and help terraform Mars, and they can have that.
Right. It's the same reason why people who are anti-vax get upset that they're required to be vaccinated to do certain jobs and be in like wear a mask to be in public spaces, because they want they think freedom is I can do whatever I want with no consequence. Which is not what it is. That's freedom from responsibility, but that's not freedom, because you inherently will have to tread all over other folks and not have a cooperative society. If it's I'm free to do anything I want with no consequence, that's just not how the world works. And so this delusional thought process doesn't translate well on large scale projects like that. And
I don't understand why they don't go off and with their millions.
They want all the social benefits of being able to be like out in public spaces, like with the anti-vax thing. They want all the social elements of being able to be in public spaces, but they don't want to do what it takes to keep the public spaces accessible and healthy. And
but they could do that in their own state, like say Eric Prince. He's got all this money. He could build literally
be their space, though. He
can have his own.
It's not about not having enough, right? I mean, within their minds, it's a lack mindset. It'll never be enough to what seems like enough to the average individual. Like I said before, they'll never understand or be able to be here with the rest of us. because it'll never be enough. The power, the money, it is like a drug to them, and they'll never get enough of it. And so trying to make sense of it, thinking that they're thinking that they have dehumanized themselves to the point that they think they don't need to have human emotion, to have empathy, to factor humans into the equation. They've reduced all of us, including themselves, to numbers. But you know, as they get popped on a New York sidewalk,
right,
and occasionally, and then they wonder why people are out here not feeling a whole ton of empathy for their
or going down to a one-way
Right.
trip to see the Titanic, and everybody up here is
Right.
just like, oh, hey, what's for dinner?
Right. They truly
It's
do.
like, yeah, why don't they do that? Like, go, like, they have all this money, they have all these resources. Why don't they take all of that and like go make their own separate little, fiefdom, kingdom, whatever it is, and like leave the rest of us alone?
Because their power only exists because we give it to them, right? So they wouldn't have power in that dynamic, and they need it. And that's the psychological element of it, right? Like the cruelty is kind of the point.
Right,
They want
right.
to rule. They don't want the good things. They want to rule. And whatever it takes to have that, they want to rule people. They want people to be subservient to them. They want to, that's what makes them, that they think will make them feel whole. They'll never feel whole, though. They will always feel empty. And I love that for them.
Well,
I hate
on
the consequences that it has for the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
We make a video earlier this week of that, a lot of folks who are sitting out here thinking like, where's the justice in this world? Just like, you do have to remember that most of these people have been and will be miserable for the rest of their lives. And their intent is not to fix themselves or to heal themselves, but to bring us into the misery with them. And so healing is a huge element of what I talk to. A lot of like white people are like, I don't know what to do to dismantle these systems. Heal. Because a lot of this is a lot of unhealed, unwashed, unspiced behavior. And we've got to focus on healing ourselves. And if we can't do that, we'll never be able to heal the things around us. And then that's why this is generational trauma packed on top of more generational trauma. And until we reckon with that and we heal from that and we help our community and we do those things, all of this is just lip service, right? And that's
and where it comes with the healing, I see probably there's an issue with that. That's why it's taking so long, is the fact that the women in question, they breed those men that oppress us and mentally destroy it, or try to mentally destroy us and economically destroy us. And so that's where the disconnect comes from. And I think that's where those women are, what's the word I'm looking for, where they disassociate. They try to disassociate. But the fact is, and I can't, I'm only 15% European, so I can't speak for you guys. I'm also a Filipino and Vietnamese, but I can't speak for all of them either. But no, I imagine they have a problem with that, because they're the ones that breed and nurture and raise them, and then they get into these positions. So they're disassociating or trying to disassociate. And that's where they don't want to take responsibility.
Right. The worst thing you can feel within the white community is shame. In fact, the moment you feel that, it is immediately someone else's fault. And you have to find, because if you have to reckoning with shame is so deeply, it's very ostracizing. You don't have the space to be a mess. You're not allowed to be a mess. People are not allowed to see you be a mess, and you are certainly not allowed to be uncomfortable in public spaces either. You're not allowed to display discomfort. And so what they do instead is, okay, well, I can't display discomfort, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I maintain my comfort.
And that's why we're in this. That's why this is not going to get fixed, because it's a never-ending cycle. And then add the fact they don't want to take responsibility.
It's the learning how to let the shoe fit. And I think leaving the domestic violence, and I told you on our last podcast that a lot of this, it's very much like leaving domestic violence. When I left my ex and finally got out of the situation that I was in, the minute that I was able to accept that I was going to be portrayed as the aggressor, I was going to be portrayed as the villain. And I had to sit with that. And I also had to sit with the role that I played in that chaos, right? Because I did play a role in that chaos. It's people refusing to sit down and think about that part. It's that what role do you play in the chaos? And you do play a role in it, whether you know it or not, whether it's intentional or not. And you have to learn how to sit with that discomfort. And so a lot of my platform is trying to teach white people how to, I tell people I'm the type of person that I hold up a mirror and I teach you how to look into it without wanting to punch it. Because that's the biggest problem with white people, is that we don't know how to look into a mirror without wanting to punch it.
Right.
Until people can, and I'm the type of person that holds up a mirror to a lot of people. So they like the thought of me, but with the execution of actually looking into that mirror, if you're not ready to do that, it frequently causes a violent response, even with people towards me that I've loved and cared about deeply. And it's learning how to help people through that and managing those emotions, because if white people love making impulsive decision based on emotions and not based on facts, right? So if we can handle the emotions so we can still keep the facts in mind.
This is what I hear from them. It's a vibe. It's a vibe. It's like, wait a minute. Fascism is not a vibe. No. But when I hear it's a vibe, I'm just thinking fascism is not a vibe.
Right. No, it is the culmination of essentially not allowing a vibe to exist. It's the absence of.
Or trying to ignore it, and you can't. You can't, right, because it's like right here in our faces. It's just like, and then the helpless part too for minorities is we're seeing all of this going on, and there's nothing we can do about it. And we're looking over here to the white community because this is y'all's weight to fix. This is y'all's because it's just so frustrating, if that makes any sense, because we're running out of time here. So I would like to throw this out there. So people that would like to be on a panel with us so we could discuss this with more people. I want us to do like a panel discussion. Check out our VIP membership page and you get a membership. That's one of the perks of being able to actually be on the podcast with us. So we'll have you in our studio and we'll have like discussions like this, and you could share what's going on with your day. When you get a VIP membership, that's a perk of a VIP membership. You get to join us on the panel. Any last words?
Just remember that there's always a different move you can make. Focus on the things that are within your bounds to touch and control. Don't try to fix the whole world. And if you want some ideas for how to heal it a little bit, keep tuning into our podcast. Make sure that you are donating and joining to make sure that this can continue to happen and we can keep bringing you content.
And it won't happen in one day. So we're not expecting that. We'll see y'all in the next one.
Thanks.
Bigotry and classist realities. Freedom is freedom to move and disobey, to rely on one another to keep would-be kings at bay. Say none of us can stand alone against their power. We must stand together and make them cower. For the laws of this land have us used and abused, owned and subordinate to our patriarchal roots. I say it's hard time we reinvent this whole operation to make mutual benefit our sole occupation.